1 year ago, the Montreal Canadiens made history, becoming one of the only teams in this millennium to send out a successful offer sheet to an RFA player. An offer sheet is a contract given to a restricted free agent that, if the free agent signs, will send the free agent over to the new team. However, because it is restricted, the original team has the ability to match the contract and prevent that player from finding a new home. Offer sheets don't happen often in the NHL, but a year ago, Marc Bergevin made a splash by sending out a successful offer sheet to Sebastian Aho of the Carolina Hurricanes. Aho is a guy who is very, very good. The season before this one, he had 83 points in 82 games. This past season, he had 66 points in 68 games played. He also had 38 goals this past season. And as a guy who is turning 23 in a few months, his best days of hockey are coming ahead of him. It's easy to see why the Montreal Canadiens wanted to sign this player. But at the time of the offer sheet, which was indeed successful, a lot of people were kind of worried as to whether or not the Carolina Hurricanes, Aho's original team, would match it. They did. And eventually, Aho came and went. He didn't actually come to Montreal. The story is done there. But I wanted to bring this up because there was a Sportsnet podcast, Hockey Central podcast, radio show, etc., that was just recorded yesterday, or 2 days ago, April 1st. And in this little audio clip, they had Brian Burke on sharing his expertise about the game of hockey. They talked about puck stuff, they talked about GMs and players, but the whole idea of the Sebastian Aho offer sheet came into the conversation, and the hosts asked Brian Burke, what did he think of it? And Burke's response kind of gives off a really interesting vibe to this whole story. It really does paint a picture for this Aho offer sheet thing that I think is really interesting to take a look at in order to understand why Marc Bergevin did it the way he did. Because I remember when the offer sheet initially happened, I made a video about it, and I was like, yo, Aho is coming to the Habs if the Hurricanes don't match this. That's crazy. But a lot of Canadiens fans in my comments were really upset, saying like, yo, this guy just gave out an offer that doesn't look like it's going to be all too difficult to match. Why did Bergevin do it like this? Why did they give out an offer sheet for Aho that only saw an average annual value of $8.454 million? That's not a lot, especially for a guy who was at 38 goals in 60-something games. So what gives? Let's go over Brian Burke's comments over here, and we can actually discuss why this offer sheet was done the way it had. This is what Brian Burke had to say about the offer sheet itself, because the hosts put him on the spot, and this is what he ended up saying. The owner of the Carolina Hurricanes conveyed to Don Waddell, the Hurricanes general manager, that the Hurricanes were not going to do any big signing bonus deals. They didn't want to do this, they didn't want to add extra money, etc. They just wanted a normal contract without any of the extra bling bling on the side. So, based on what Don Waddell told Marc Bergevin, Bergevin and the agent structured this offer sheet contract with all the elements that the owner of the Hurricanes said he wouldn't do. It was actually done to the penny, the cheapest number that Montreal honestly believed they could sign him without getting matched. They added all the bonuses. If we take a look at the contract layout, in the first year, 2019-20, for Sebastian Aho's new contract extension, his total salary was $12 million because he got $11.3 million in signing bonuses. According to what the owner initially told Don Waddell, that was something they didn't want to do. They didn't want these huge signing bonuses to be attached to the Aho contract. So, Bergevin formed this contract with that idea in mind, to create a contract so ludicrous on the contract bonus side of things that the Carolina Hurricanes just wouldn't bother to accept it. However, Berkey does say later that after the offer sheet was made and after everything came out to the media, after all the details were finalized, the owner then spoke to Don Waddell, the Carolina Hurricanes GM, and said, "Screw it, let's do it. Let's match it, let's keep the guy, and we can just forget this ever happened." So, to those who were criticizing Marc Bergevin for not really paying out the big bucks for a guy who probably could have gotten the big bucks if he wanted it, does this information change your opinion on how Bergevin handled the offer sheet? Knowing that everything that Bergevin put into the offer sheet was everything that the Carolina Hurricanes ownership said they didn't want, significantly increasing the idea within Bergevin's head that they would not match it. Now obviously, in the end we know that they did match it because the owner was just like, screw it, okay, we'll go for it even though it has the things that we said we didn't want. But does this change your opinion on how Bergevin handled it? Comment down in the comments below because I can definitely see it from both sides. On the one hand, you say, okay, well, Bergevin worked with the information he had, and he worked around that to create a contract that, with all the information presented to him, seemed like it would be a guaranteed Montreal win. With that idea in mind, it's fair to say that Bergevin could not have seen it coming that Carolina does indeed match it, because he literally heard that they didn't want to match a contract that had those things. It's just on a whim of a dime that they said, no, we'll match it instead. But at the same time, the other perspective is, yeah, well, he still tried to get Aho for the cheapest amount of money that he could have gotten him for, which in turn doesn't give the Hurricanes too much of a difficult chance to say no. Salary bonuses are one thing, but cap hit, AAV, salary itself is another thing. So, from that perspective, you can definitely still remain true to the argument that Bergevin did not unload on an Aho when he really could have. The Habs are in a position where they do have cap space, and they're going to have cap space for a while. Everybody knows that. But Bergevin has never been one to shell out the big bucks for a Panarin, for a Duchesne, for an Aho, for any of the big guys who come out in the free agency. Does that argument and does that philosophy apply here? When you know what you know about what Berkey said, how the owner didn't want to get those bonuses, but were hit in the face with bonuses instead. For me personally, I'm just kind of moving past it already. Sure, I would have loved to see Aho in a Canadiens jersey. Imagine having a center core of Aho on your first line, Danault on your second line, and then whoever the heck you want on the third line, Nick Suzuki. Maybe even play Nick Suzuki on the right wing with Aho. That sounds amazing. A playmaker with the skills of Suzuki with a sniper like a Sebastian Aho. That sounds like something I would have loved to see. And obviously it does hurt thinking about the possibilities, thinking about adding a U25 player at the same caliber as Aho, a guy who could get almost 40 goals in a year, in a shortened year by the way, and still look like he has so much more to give in the game of hockey going forward. It really does hurt. And it really does hurt even more knowing the idea that if Bergevin just added a few more $1 million, he might have been able to get it. But, at the same time, the information he received was laid out in such a way that handcuffed the Carolina Hurricanes from crafting out a certain kind of contract. Bergevin did his best, and he tried to make a contract that used those undesirable traits to entice Aho to come to Montreal, even with a few other dollars saved. It didn't work, but that's the story we have now. So comment down below in the comments below if this new information revealed by Brian Burke changes your opinion on the offer sheet entirely. Does it make you forgive Bergevin a little bit more? Or does it make you condemn him even further for not putting out the bucks? Because I know there are going to be people on both sides, and I know The one thing that everybody can agree on is that if Aho was on this team, boy oh boy, there would be a lot more to cheer about, wouldn't there? Hope you enjoyed this video, such as that show us 99, and bye.